What have you learned about resilience through all of that? Or in one sentence, what drives you now?
I think my ambition's different to what it was when I was in my 30s. I used to think I could walk on water. I can't anymore. But I think what drives me now is the enjoyment of travel in general. I think I can bring something back into the industry that's missing. That's what I'm trying to do. I don't really know, Gemma, what drives me. I get up in the morning, I'm excited about doing what I'm doing. I go to bed and I'm excited. I'm genuinely excited about what I'm doing all the time, and I love it. And trouble is, I don't switch off, and that's a danger, and I'm trying to address that.
Hello, everybody, and a huge welcome back to the Travel Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Gemma Zinyama, founder of Travel Insights AI, where we share honest, real conversations with inspiring leaders shaping the future of travel. Now, today I have the great pleasure of being joined by Wesley, a former founder of Pure One, a new travel group with huge ambition to build one of the top 3 travel companies across the UK and Europe within the next decade. Wesley, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Gemma, and I appreciate being online. Thank you.
Thank you. So before we dive in, where are you joining us from today?
Kent, cold Kent, but Kent. It's sunny and nice, but it's Kent, yeah. But we're also in other locations as well, obviously. Some of the company are in France as well, but I'm in Kent.
Okay, brilliant. So let's give listeners some clear context. How would you describe Pure One and what you are building?
Okay, I guess the best way of describing Pure One is that we're an ambitious young company with designs on experiences, really, adventure and experiences for small groups and FIT travelers, which is independent travelers. And the aim of it, we're trying to focus on niche markets, on experiences around the travel industry. So everything from surfing to paranormal to new age to pathways, which is looking at culture and historical trips, to language journeys, lots of different niche areas. And we're expanding as a company. We aim to become one of the largest in the UK and also Europe. So we have aspirations in France, Netherlands, Belgium, Denmark, Germany, and the whole of the Scandinavian countries as well. So that really is, in a very short spell, what we are about. We perceive having ourselves our own transportation network in the future, our own accommodation as well. So it's an interesting business, but we're not just a travel company like that. We're a tour operator, but we're also breaking into retail travel as well. And we also have a leisure side to the business and a media side. So we're kind of a travel, leisure and media company, I think is the best way of describing us.
Brilliant. So to summarize in a sentence for people listening, Pure One is aiming to become a top UK EU travel group with hotel, airline and European expansion built in. That's correct.
Yeah, that is it. I mean, we start off as a small niche tour operators in particular fields, but we're breaking into those markets. Yeah. So
Brilliant.
I would hope for us to be, in a top 2 or 3 companies in this country, within 8 years. Yeah.
So you actually have one of the most unusual origin stories I've heard, working in a travel agency at 13, writing over 250 letters and landing on Thomson's fast track directorship program at 15. When you look back at that time, what made you so determined?
It's funny. I don't really know. I think it's my early travel experiences. I was taken away by my parents to first of all in the UK and then eventually over to Costa Brava. Directly, was my first overseas holiday in 1983, I think it was. And after that experience, I came back and I got a Saturday job. I was doing a paper round. I got a Saturday job in a travel agency group called Marinair. And it was based in Whitstable, Kent. And I used to stamp brochures and I started learning everything about it. And I sat in the back of the travel agency for the first couple of months I was there. And I was reading every single travel brochure and starting to cut brochures up actually and make my own brochures. And that's where it really came to light. And then I decided I didn't want to be a travel agency. I wanted to be a tour operator. That's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to create the experiences. And rather than selling someone else's experiences. And that's where it came from. So in those days, we had huge, great big thick books of the details of all the travel companies over the world. And I went through and wrote down all the addresses, and I sat in front of a fire in my parents' house. Every day when I come home from school, I sat down and I wrote letters on a green Basildon bond paper. When I look back, it was green Basildon bond paper. And I wrote off. And of course, Thompsons were one of only a few that replied. And that was the danger. Once they replied, I had someone's name. And after that, I became a pest. So much so that they eventually invited me up for this interview at Greater London House, GLH, near Mornington Crescent in London.
I know the one. It sounds like you went from agency, letters, program, leadership mindset. Everything about what you've said speaks to how ambitious, entrepreneurial, and how much of a leadership mindset you have from such a young age is really, really inspiring.
I'd add to that. There's a couple of things behind. That. The first thing is that I used to. I read a couple books as a teenager growing up. One was Victor Kime, which was he was. You won't remember this advert because you're young, Gemma, but it was the man that bought the company. It was a razor company and or electronic shavers. And he was working for it. He kept on, instead of taking bonuses, took shares in the company, ended up owning the company. And that inspired me quite a lot then. And then, of course, it was other silly things as well, which, again, you're young, Gemma, so you won't remember this.
I'm not that young.
Well, the likes of Dallas and stuff like that on TV, it really inspired me. I loved watching JR and Bobby Ewing and stuff. And I really, that kind of drove me. And truthfully, that's where the ambition came from. Plus, I was lucky. In my family, I had an uncle who was very ambitious, achieved a lot of things, and was one of the first people that did summer schools in the UK. And so I sort of had this grounding already in the blood, really, and people that I could ask about. But that's where my drive really came from. I remember sitting on a table at school and drawing a plane, and on that plane writing Baker Airlines instead of Laker Airlines, because Freddie Laker was a bit of my aspiration as well at the time. Freddie Laker had all been in the news with his planes going across to America. And I actually wrote Baker Airlines then, and that's really, I think, probably where it really kicked in for what I wanted to do.
You told me that Pure One has ambitions to be top 3 in the UK you travel within, 5 to 10 years against huge brands like Jet2 and TUI. What does that vision actually look like in practice for people listening?
That's a really good question. I think the reality is I only know how to grow things big. So I've come from growing in lots of bigger companies, and I only know I can't develop a small company. It has to shoot for the sky. So that's the first thing. If you think of the Virgin Group, we're very much mirrored off of that. I have a few Virgin team members in the company already. We're young, we're ambitious, we're lively. We're looking to bring back a little bit of the quality I think is missing in the travel industry now.
Yeah.
Within the tour operators, within the bigger tour operators. So I'm trying to bring a little bit of that 1980s feel back to the modern era. And that's the aim, and that's what I'm trying to envisage. So what will happen eventually is that you'll have a book online, or you'll go to your high street and you'll book in a Pure One travel shop, or Pure Vacations travel shop. You'll go to the airport, you'll travel on one of our airlines, or you'll travel on a train or bus that's connected to us in some shape or form. You'll stay in our accommodation and you'll be looked after by our guides. So you will be in the environment of a company from start to finish. That's what I want to develop. And that's what we're looking to do. And I think the market is there and ready for it. But we're not going head to head with the likes of Jet2. Jet2 is more of a budget operator in our eyes. And TUI is not the same as when I was at Thompsons. When I was at Thompsons, I know people now that are no longer with us that'll be turning in their graves, seeing what's happened to the old brand of Thompsons and how TUI have changed it. So, from my perspective, I really want to put that back. I want to challenge these companies. I want to drive them forward with new aspirations. Yes, we're small, but we will be growing fast, and we will be growing with intent. And that's the crucial thing. And we're growing across Europe as well. That's the other thing. We've opened up the whole market for it.
That's brilliant. So what problem are you trying to solve for customers?
Problem really is, I think that people are traveling a bit more independently nowadays, but they still, since the pandemic and volcanic eruptions and everything, are still looking to travel in packages. So what we're trying to do is, people don't just want to go for 7 nights, 14 nights, 10 nights on a beach now. They want a little bit more than that. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to be different. So if you look at our pathway tours, for example, they are really unique in that we go to places that not everyone else goes to. So, if we went to Rome, we wouldn't go just to the Vatican. We'd go around the little church around the corner so people can really experience the real Roman
Off the beaten track.
yeah, stuff that the influencers are always filming, but you don't necessarily go there yourself. And so we're trying to come at it from a different angle, really, and looking at the excitement of that. Plus, we're doing so many interesting things, and we're giving the security to the passenger traveling. Independent travel is great until it goes wrong. And that's when you need a tour operator. The beauty of a tour operator is that we negotiate better rates. We do work with good hotels and good accommodation. We try and test everything that we sell. So nothing that is in our program has not been tested by our own staff. We know exactly what's going on and what we're selling.
So you definitely understand the customer and bridge that gap, where instead of the DIY, there's so much value in being able to use you. And I'm sure you build huge trust with your clients and customers as well. So that's good to hear. And I was moving on to Brexit and the overseas rep problem because we sort of touched on it on our pre-chat. You raised a really serious point about Brexit. Because of the visa rules, UK citizens can't actually work as overseas reps in the EU. And you believe that gap actually risks, standard service and career routes. Can you unpack that for the industry that are listening?
Yes, certainly. So a lot of people didn't realize. I knew straight away what it meant, but a lot of people didn't realize the impact, and the impacts are just starting to be seen now. If you imagine a British tour operator always had its own reps and sent its reps overseas, and they move those reps around all the time, predominantly in Europe, but across the world as well. But let's look at the European problem. Now, the trouble now is that no longer can you get people that have come out of university or going through the system of working in a travel agency and then moving on to become a rep, because we haven't got the EU passport, the ability to work in Europe. And that means that tour operators are relying, first of all, they've relied on their existing staff that applied and got the right to remain in the EU. But a lot of them have been employing former reps. They're coming to the end of their working lives. Effectively, they're in their 60s, 50s, 60s, and some of them going into their 70s. They don't want to be doing that type of job anymore, and it's a stressful environment. But that's just one problem. So that's the problem that you've dealt with now. So tour operators are now experiencing that they can no longer employ British people to do the role of representing the British tour operator. Now, what does that mean? Well, if you have someone who is perhaps German, French, or Belgium, or Dutch, and they're representing a British tour operator in say Costa del Sol, but you've got Joan that's come from Kent, you've got Betty that's come from Stoke, and Judith that's come from Glasgow. Each of those customers have a different cultural experience in the UK. Now, you as a person would understand that. If you're British, you know how they tick. You understand the mentality, the political swings and everything else about. So when you're dealing with them as a rep, you understand. And when we used to love the Northern flights because they were the fun flights, the Gatwick flights we always hated because they were like the miserable flights. The Gatwick passengers would come off with long faces. They were serious people. The Manchester flights, the Scottish flights were all happy people. We're on holiday. This is great, And I think what's missing now is that the European employees don't know the difference. They don't know the little slang sayings and everything else. So they deal with customer service and everything as good as they're trained, but they don't understand the actual fundamentals of the culture. And that's one of the problems coming through. Then there's a bigger problem, and that is that the UK travel industry is going to be missing a huge career depth that's coming. Reps that are reps, they leave, they often come back as travel agencies, or they go into tour operators' head offices, and they could give all this wealth of experience. That is gone if you haven't got the British reps overseas anymore doing the job that they used to do in the UK. And so that is one of the big problems that I see. And there's going to be a huge rep gap coming down the line. Well, it's already here, but it's going to only get wider unless we can sort it out. Now, I've written to the President of the European Union multiple letters. I've had multiple very nice letters back. They have proposed multiple times to the UK government ways to help this. I said, surely we can come up with a visa that would be suitable just for tourism trade. But the trouble seems to be in the UK. The UK government, despite the fact we've got a change of government, we have the same issue. They're stuck in the mud with their view, and they're not actually observing what's going on in the market. So the UK travel industry, tour operator market, is struggling a little bit. and how to cope with that. It affects us as a company as well.
Yeah,
We've got plans for our own coach tours that will be leaving the UK and our own coaches. We'll be limited to what our guides can do, how many sessions over in Europe they can do because of this situation we work in.
yeah. I appreciate that you are actually pushing for change politically. That's a huge step to be taking in your own personal time. And you can see the impact on customer service it has just by having completely different people on the ground.
I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. I've been overseas and I heard, I've actually heard packages from one of the big brands. I'm not going to say who it is. And I've heard their reps talking to their customers. And I thought, oh, I would never have said that to my customer. I would never, they just don't seem to understand what the problem was. And I could see straight away. And I actually stepped in and spoke to this couple and said, what, and this, and the rep looked on shocked. And I said, what this? And I explained the situation. And then he said, oh, thank you very much. If only we'd have been told that. And this rep was looking at me as if I was talking a foreign language. But it's because English was their second language and they had not lived in England or the UK. So they didn't understand the culture. And that is where the big tour operators, every travel company is going to have a problem with this, with European travel.
Okay.
The lovely
So,
Brexit.
yeah, thanks. Just moving on a bit and touching on your health story and writing in ICU. So you actually had a major personal turning point when you suffered from a bowel perforation, which actually only has a 2% survival rate. And you wrote a book on your iPhone in ICU. Like, I can't imagine what you went through. How did that experience change how you lead and how you think about your time?
Well, obviously very recent because it was only in 2024. Effectively, it changed everything. I was laying in hospital and I thought, I have so much experience, so many stories to tell, and they're just all going to be lost in one go if I pass away here. And against all the odds, because it was too dangerous for them to operate exactly where it was. There was only a 5% chance of surviving the operation, so they decided to just try to treat it normally. I lay there and I thought, well, what am I going to do? And I just started writing. And I get emotional thinking about this, Gemma, actually, but I started writing and I looked for a date that actually I could work with. What date in my life was a change? And I picked 1992 and I saw 92 and I thought, okay, that was a big change in my life. And why? So I started writing about that. That was when I was working overseas as a rep. It was the end of my repping career, really. I focused on that. I didn't expect it to ever. I wrote a book in effectively 2 weeks, and then with an extra week of editing it. When I got out, I was in bed on the laptop trying to sort it all out and everything. But in a nutshell, I didn't expect if one person liked it, I would have been happy. It turned into become a bestseller. Then people were asking for a second book. Then I wrote the second book, and then of course I've written 4 now, and 3 memoirs and 1 novel, and I've got more coming out this year. So that's a big change. So how did it change me as a leader? Was what you're asking. It's changed me in that I look at things now to live for today and not think of tomorrow, to plan everything and get everything done that I can get done now, to focus on happiness and enjoyment. When people say urgent, oh, this is urgent. And I look at it, I think it's not urgent or it's mega important. Now, mega importance when you're fighting for your life, nothing's that important. You've got to look at things. So I've changed my leadership style a little bit, I think now. I had a big meeting this week actually with my chief operating officer, and he looked worried because I said, "Oh, I'm making some changes in the company," and he shrunk in his chair. His eyes went big and round. His cheeks were going pink because I think he thought I was just making this massive change or going to get rid of him or something like that. And I just explained the changes that I was doing and that they were sensible changes, and he was so taken back with it. But that's because I sat back at Christmas and thought about it all whilst I was working and enjoyed it. So it's affected me greatly, but I still feel, as you could tell, I feel very emotional about it when I talk about it.
Yeah, that's remarkable. And only you know what you've been through. So you're speaking from true experience there. Yeah, it's remarkable. And I'm so pleased, obviously, that you are here today sharing and being able to share your story. So, talking also about entrepreneurship and resilience, you've been through corporate leadership, near-death experience, and now a massive new venture. What have you learned about resilience through all of that? Or in one sentence, what drives you now?
I think my ambition's different to what it was when I was in my 30s. I used to think I could walk on water. I can't anymore. But I think what drives me now is the enjoyment of travel in general. I think I can bring something back into the industry that's missing. That's what I'm trying to do. I just have I don't really know, Gemma, what drives me. I get up, get up in the morning. I'm excited about doing what I'm doing. I go to bed and I'm excited. I'm genuinely excited about what I'm doing all the time, and I love it. And trouble is, I don't switch off, and that's a danger. And I'm trying to address that, but I don't switch off. My family hate it because they'll see me on my phone or doing something. I'm not hassling other staff. I don't do anything like that. I try not to do that after hours. That I keep strict hours, but for employees and stuff like that. But for me personally, I'm always thinking outside the box. Funnily enough, and I know you only wanted a one sentence reply, and I've given you a whole 4 paragraphs, but I do my most thinking in the shower, would you believe? I think my family hates it when I go into the
Really?
shower. Yeah, I go into the shower and I come out
That's what
and
you
I've
come
got
to life.
it does, yeah. It does totally come to life. I've read a book about this as well. Apparently, it's quite normal. It's something to do with the water interacting with you or the relaxation. But I do really become creative when I'm in the shower thinking, and I come back with some great ideas. And they come to me, and I go straight out the shower, get changed, and I have to write them down immediately because otherwise I'll forget them. And they're often really good ideas about, oh, we need to do this, oh, we need to do that. That needs to happen, you know. So there you go.
That's a good answer. I like to hear that. Not sure if I'm going to try that. Let's see. Yeah, I like the shower. Maybe it's something to do with the nervous system and yeah, it relaxing you. There we go. So one of my favorite questions to ask, the magic wand question. If you could have a magic wand and change one thing about the travel industry landscape tomorrow, what would you change and why?
I would change the ability for companies to be like I'm trying to build Pure One as major companies, gobbling up all the independents. I would keep all the travel agencies available in the high streets, the airlines, as independent airlines, and tour operators. There's a whole range of tour operators. When I first came into travel, it was full of lots of independent companies. I was a part of the problem because at Thompson's, I was acquiring these companies. We were part of the team that were acquiring these companies, and we were just literally buying companies to gain market share like you do. But I wish I could turn the clock back to the 80s, but bring it forward to now with the technology we've got.
Yeah.
And where you have such a range of operators. The travel industry goes a full circle, Gemma. It goes a full circle all the time. And that basically means you'd have the small operators now, and they're big. Now, over the next 5 to 8 years, these operators will be rebought by the big operators again, and it will go around and all the same. The rebirth of the travel agency, that's back again. The retail travel agencies are growing. There was over 1,000 new ones last year in the UK, and forecast to be a couple thousand this year. But at what point do those travel agencies then start to become multiples instead of independents or small minipool groups? When they go from independents, 1 or 2 independents, and then they grow into a minipool, 3 or 4 or 5 little ones. But then what company will come along and start buying them and taking them into multiples again? And then we're going back to the old days of the Lum Pollys, the Hogg Robinsons, the Pickfords, where that's all that's in the high street. And the independent travel agency is not there anymore. So because the independent's not there, you're not seeing the independent tour operator anymore. And so I would try to transfer the mid 1980s, which I think is a golden era in travel, to now. That's what I'd love to do. That's the magic wand if I could do that, because it was a great time.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe you could give some advice for industry listeners, for leaders listening who want to build or reinvent something in travel. What's maybe one piece of advice you'd like to share?
Okay. Never take no for an answer. Whenever there's a wall in front of you, always move left, right, up or down, go around it. Don't use the wall that's been put in front of you as the blockage. There's always a way forward. You just got to find it. There's always a crack. There's always a gap. Go for it. And if you see the market opportunity, don't think about it. Just take it. Go for it. The worst thing is it goes wrong. You haven't lost anything. That's what I would say, because that is really the best way forward.
That's incredible. Thank you. So I would also like to ask, where do you see the Pure One Group in the next 12 to 24 months?
Yes. Well, Pure One Travel will be growing tremendously in small groups. We do it at the FIT, but the FIT will be reducing slightly. We'll be growing in small groups within the niches. Our sister company, Ocean Fever, will be heading towards becoming the world's largest surf travel company within 18 months. Yes, that's where I see us.
Brilliant. Wesley, this has been really inspiring. Thank you so much. The mix of early passion, huge ambition, and genuine industry challenges makes this a really powerful conversation. So I'd love to follow up after the recording and explore where our work overlaps. But last and final question, where can listeners find out more about the business and follow your journey going forward?
Okay, well, there's a number of places. They can obviously type in my name because my name pops up everywhere. But if they go to pureonegroup.com, that's the main corporate site. The tour operators are pureonetravel.com and oceanfever.com. And obviously, if they go to my own site, which is wesleybaker.com, they can see everything and see my ramblings in blogs there.
No, that's incredible and really insightful listen. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the Travel Leaders podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please make sure that you follow, subscribe, and share this with somebody else in the travel industry. Thanks, everyone.